Have you ever looked closely at a trident killer and seen that when the piston extends, it doesn't actually do anything to the mob or the trident? The trident actually damages the mob when the piston retracts. Now, there are two main ways in which you can update a trident. One of them is by making it fall, and by fall, I mean removing its support block. That can be by destroying a block or opening a trapdoor so that the trident is no longer on top of it, or in like a carpet moving TK, the moving block actually has no collision when it comes to projectiles, so the trident thinks it can fall right through the moving carpet, which makes it update. Now imagine this is the timeline and one block represents one game tick. Then if this is the C tick that the trapdoor gets powered in, then the trident will not update in the same game tick, but it will update in the next one, which will be a P tick. Now if you don't know what I'm talking about C ticks and P ticks, then I'll leave a link to a video by Kairu in the description which explains them. And what I'm basically trying to say is that in falling based updating, there is a one game tick delay between when the thing actually happens and the trident updates. Now, unlike the trapdoor, the piston starts extending in a P tick and also starts retracting in a P tick. That's why, because of the one game tick delay, the trident actually updates in a C tick in a moving block based trident killer. So these two have a one game tick offset between them, and that offset can be useful. I'll explain that later. I think it's worth mentioning that in a moving block based trident killer, the trident activates both when the piston is extending and when it's retracting. So even though the piston itself has an 8 game tick cycle, this trident is updating on a 4 game tick cycle. If we return to our timeline and this is the first game tick, then when we remove the support from it and in the next game tick nothing happens, but in the second game tick after that the trident starts falling. Now even though it did start falling doesn't mean it has fallen any distance, and if you bring back its support in the next game tick then it won't physically move, just update, and then this cycle can be repeated every 3 game ticks. That's why if a single trident is being used in a trident killer, the maximum speed it can achieve is 3 game ticks in a falling based trident killer. And if you have the trident unsupported for a third game tick, then it will fall down, and then even if you support it in the fourth game tick, then or even no, if you support it in the third game tick then it won't fall down, but if you support it in the fourth game tick then yeah, it will still continue falling through the block. Now I'm not saying this means one game tick TKs are not possible. It's just not possible for a single trident to create a one game tick TK. You just need multiple tridents for that to happen. And it's not possible for a falling based trident killer to be faster than 3 game ticks, but it is technically possible to have a single trident clocking at 2 game ticks, and I will show you that later. But the way it basically works is this guy, the piston head, and the way it updates the trident isn't exactly falling. I mean, it can fall, but even if it is on the ground, then yeah, it still updates the trident. And it's only the case with piston heads. If you try it with some moving block, then it does not update the trident at all. Now, unlike the moving block based TK, the piston head based TK doesn't uh, update the trend when extending. So it is slower and it clocks at a cycle speed of 8 game ticks. But the bigger difference is that the piston head ticket does not have that one game tick delay, and it updates the trend in the same game tick as it starts retracting. So it happens in a p tick and in a similar game tick as a trapdoor trend killer would update. I don't know why exactly the piston head behaves differently from other things, but whatever it is has to do with the locking mechanisms that piston heads have. And what I mean by that is mm, if you have a piston updating a trend that has a support block under it, the support block does not matter and the piston updates it anyway. But if you have a support block, I mean, if you have a trident on the side of a piston head, then no matter how many times you okay, failed example there, you actually need to have the trident on the very edge of the block for this to work. Yes, but as I was saying, that the piston head has locked this trident, and now whatever I do, it won't update until this piston head retracts. Now, as I said, these piston head based TKs don't get that one game tick delay between the thing happening and the trend updating. So you can basically skip one of the game ticks over here and use that to create a 2 game tick trend killer that uses only one trend. But the issue with that is that you will need 8 pistons because they're slow, and most of the time they'll end up locking the trend themselves. So yeah, you don't really get any damage being done. Now it is not 100% reliable. Sometimes the trend does damage the mob, but most of the time the trend gets locked and doesn't damage anything. The way you can work around this locking is trick the trend into thinking that it's being updated by a piston head while there is actually no piston head updating it. And you can use this bug called trend update migration, and as you can see, it updates this trend even though it has no piston arm next to it, but it does think it has one, but it can't get locked by one because there is none. And also you can have multiple pistons connected to this same hopper. So yeah, this trend can update in a 2 game tick cycle on its own. I mean, there are other trends involved, but they're not actually updating. The only one updating is this one. That bug was found by a Chinese person whom I can't seem to find right now, and I might make a more detailed video on that bug and how you can use it, but that's enough for that bug for now. Back to 1 game tick TKs. So the basic way they work is you have 2 piston based moving TKs, and of course you need sticky pistons here so that it actually updates the trend more than once, and 2 trapdoor TKs. These trapdoor TKs themselves would make a 2 game tick trend killer, and these moving carpet based TKs would make a 2 game tick trend killer by themselves as well. But since I discussed in the start of the video that they're offset by 1 game tick, that means that 2 game tick TK is offset by 1 game tick creates a 1 game tick TK. But it's not really viable for most mobs because you need room on like 8 adjacent blocks, so only fat mobs like guardians can actually be killed in this way. I think that's it for this video, and I hope you found something useful. If you have any questions regarding this video or any other thing related to trends, then you can ask us on Discord. Bye.